and then we can launch other ad channels.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Khalil Doheny. I'm the Senior Content Marketing Manager at Digital Niche Agency. Today I have Charles from AtomBeam. Charles, how are you doing today?
Good, Khalil. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Really excited for today's webinar. This webinar is to catch everyone up with what AtomBeam has been up to since their last campaign. AtomBeam is running a equity crowdfunding campaign on Start Engine currently. Charles, do you want to give us a quick, introduction to yourself and what you guys have a little bit been up to since the last campaign?
Sure. So I'm Charles Yeomans, as you said, and I'm the CEO of AtomBeam, also one of the two founders. And so been here since the beginning. And basically, I think that everyone probably here is basically aware of what we do, but we are a software company with a revolutionary way of moving machine-generated data that has a fundamental and very positive effect.
And the question and the topic of the webinar is, what has AtomBeam been up to?
Right.
And I'm sure that you've had a whole, it's been almost a year since the campaign. So this webinar is going to be for you, the investors, and maybe even the potential investors to just kind of get updated
right.
with what's going on. With that being said, Charles, take it away.
Here we go. All right. So what I've done is I prepared a deck, slide deck, and has a few slides just to give background to anybody who's not familiar with us yet. But the focus of the deck is on what you said, which is sort of like, what have we been up to? So with that, I will share screen and we can get going. Okay. Well, thanks again, everybody, for coming. And so here we go. So quickly on what AtomBeam is and all that. We are a software company that's raised just under 5 million now. And we have 13 patents now, bunch more in the works. And we focus on reducing the size of data, individual data in real time that in effect multiplies any connection of IoT data, usually by a factor of around 4. And we have some pretty major contracts, and we're targeting right now satellites, the data transmitted over satellites. Why? Because it's very expensive to do that. And so it's a good target for us as a early kind of way of attacking it. And just quickly, what do we address? So we address IoT data, which is Internet of Things, which is machine-generated data. And there is a lot of it. And 90 zettabytes, which is coming in a few years, is a gigantic amount. It's the fastest growing category of data. And almost all of it has no security at all, which means that there is some really big needs. There's massive quantities of this data that needs to be moved around, and also it needs to have some security. And so what we do that's new is we take an old classic idea, which is code books, and I'll explain those in a moment, and we combine it with machine learning and a bunch of fancy math. And the concept really is revolutionary because we can take any connection again, and we can multiply it in any connection you want, old one, Bluetooth, satellite, whatever, and we can multiply the effective bandwidth, and we add security when we do it. So quick background here. What's a code book? A code book is very simple. It's just a bunch of things that are represented by other things. So if we represent here the letter A by a small letter X, then you've got a code book. And so you build that, and once you build it, and you add in machine learning, and again, our advanced math, and boom, you have what we're doing. Now you say, well, why not just use compression? Data compression's been around forever, and like literally since the 70s. And the problem with compression is it operates on a single file. and it's looking for repetitions of pattern within one file. And so that doesn't work for machine generated files because they're just too small to have repetitions of patterns. So what we do instead is we look at thousands of these little messages all at once using the machine learning. We find patterns that repeat themselves over and over. And once we do that, then we can put them into the codebook. And then we assign maybe 128-bit pattern, a 3-bit code board or an index. And so once that codebook has been built, all we have to do is take the codebook and our software and put it into the source and the destination. And these two things can talk to each other extremely fast, far faster than anything that has ever been possible before. And if you can do that, you can take anybody's connection and multiply it dramatically. And so here's some examples from the real world of what this means. So all these different examples, we have tons of them, all sorts of space things. Every time we talk to a space company, they want something, they want to get involved, robotics and biometrics and telematics and radar and LiDAR and yada, 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 all that stuff. And the keys to our stuff is we operate extremely fast, about 400 times faster than compression can go. And we're reducing individual files, which means, again, 4 times bandwidth. But it also means, because of the way we're doing it, we add security right out of the box. And we can ramp that up to NSA can't crack it level security. So we have some pretty interesting stuff that always gets the attention of the big companies that we pitch. That being said, that takes us into what have we done? So since we closed out our raise last September, we have released a new version of the product that's a major rewrite. We doubled the number of patents. We have completed several POCs and we're moving to contracts. The DoD, we've brought in some really key guys that I actually talked about during the last raise, but now we're at a point where we're submitting some proposals that I'm pretty optimistic about. There's big time things. And finally, the partnerships, and I'm going to talk about why those are so important. So first of all, on the release. So first thing to know here is it is a rewrite, and the emphasis, now we have a list of features we want to add there as long as your arm, but the big thing we wanted to do was make it fast, simple, and easy, so that anybody who wants to use it can pretty easily adopt it. We simplified documentation, how you integrate it, how it's deployed. We did tons of QA, so you'll be able to say, this is a rock solid piece of software, and it's really easy to put it in. And that, to me, was the priority. Second thing is patents. So we have 11 issued and 2 more that are allowed. That means that you basically have to pay the fee and they give them to you. There's 14 pending, another 11 in development. And there are significant major ideas in there. And the idea is, if you get enough coverage in there, you are going to get a very significant sort of thicket of patents that is going to be very hard to get through. And where are we on customers? Well, there's 14 active prospects at the moment. And I'm not allowed to say it anymore, but everybody knows about the POC we won last year with a big Swedish aircraft manufacturer. We finished their POC just this summer. They were pretty slow, not us. And now they're moving to a field trial. And they were very enthusiastic, easy to use, rock solid, etc. And they were using the new release. And we have other POCs that are either underway or completed. One is I think they're a $50 billion network equipment maker. They went super well. A healthcare company that uses LiDAR, which is strange, but whatever. Lots of, there's a giant, not that giant, but they've raised lots of money, that they have data observability, if anybody knows what that means. It's like you have to see what's going on with your IoT data and really be able to use it for something. There's a remote mining operations monitoring company. There's others. We've got lots that are in the works here. Then DoD, what are we doing? So everybody who was involved last year might remember that we brought on as advisors Chris Miller, who's the former Secretary of Defense, and Tony Tata, who's a former Army General and former Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, #3 guy. We have historically written 5 proposals to DoD, and we have had two positive, we've received 2 contracts, but those are phase 1s, and those are small, relatively speaking, in the hundreds of thousands. But to win the big ones, you've really got to have the horsepower and the relationships. And so we want to get those phase 2s and phase 3s. So what do? We've harnessed up our big horses, and we've also brought in this very, very influential professor from the Air Force Academy. We've hired this other contract consultant, and I'm feeling pretty optimistic about 2 phase 2s that, cross your fingers. One's $1 million a quarter, once the other's $1 million a quarter, we share it. It's a really positive thing. So partnerships are really important. And the reason is, if you think about what we do and how it's used, what you really want is for someone to be able to say, yeah, I really like this. And we get those all day long. But how do I use it? How do I put it in my stuff? And so that's where the partnerships come in, because it's like, if all they have to do is say, oh, so I just checked this box and that's it, then that is where we really are going to be able to scale. Because when we can get that to happen, and we have already with this European software IoT platform, they have integrated it, we've with them integrated into their stuff. That makes it a click and drag to add us to the mix. They're really excited about it. We're going to announce a partnership there soon. We also, are pretty close to being able to announce a partnership with a major satellite operator. Now, they haven't done the integration, but they are the ones who exploit that integration, and they want to generate more sales for themselves. And they know that if they can effectively cut the cost of their services by 75%, then they're going to get a lot more customers. And so they're pushing that hard. This blockchain company, a lot of people are aware, I think, that we had this, we have an LOI with a blockchain company. It's delayed because of what's been going on in crypto world, even though they aren't crypto. And we are instead, for the moment, going to move forward with a partnership, and we'll be announcing that soon. And this data observability platform is not only going to be a customer, but also a partner, in the sense that they want to integrate it in and resell it. So making sales is critically dependent on how easy, fast it is to use our stuff. Nobody has any issues with, is this going to work for me? And is it great? And all that stuff. What we need is, how quick and fast can I add it to my stuff? So that is the most critical things to understand about us. So what are we doing going forward? First thing is, we need to build more of these partnerships. I want to focus on these IoT platforms and satellite operators, because they all are panting to, the ones that really understand it get really excited about it, because they can get more customers. We are a revenue generating opportunity for them. And also, outside of those, the ones with their own ecosystem, like this big Swedish aircraft company, they can use it to drive all sorts of efficiencies for themselves. We all want to continue to build our patents, look for more DoD contracts, and raise some more money so that we can drive our sales. So that's the update, the bones of it. And I'm ready to, if you are, Khalil, to move on to some questions.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you so much, Charles, for putting that deck together. It's really great to see the progression and what you've been up to. I do want to add the raise page link into the chat box below. Let me pull that out for you. And now is the time to get your questions answered. If you have a question and you would like Charles to answer that, feel free to. We have a question from Kartek. Do you think partnerships might be problematic from a viewpoint that competitors to your partners shy away?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Do you think your partnerships might be problematic from a viewpoint that competitors to your partners shy away?
I don't think so. I mean, we are happy to partner with, we have no exclusive arrangements with anybody. If one software IoT platform, like the one we've already integrated with, has no particular claim on us, absolutely, we would, just do another one, and do another one and another one. We've already initiated conversations with 3 more, and we have positive vibes from everybody so far. So, and certainly, I mean, if Inmarsat, I'm sorry, I can't say sorry. If a big satellite operator were to say to us, hey, we want to make this exclusive for some period of time, well, guess what? That's going to cost you some money. So at any rate, the bottom line is that I don't anticipate any issues with partnering. I would only anticipate a giant company insisting on some exclusivity, but that has not happened.
Got it. And have you considered the agriculture sector where sensory data is increasingly important?
Absolutely. We have already had discussions with, and actually there was a full POC with an ag monitoring company that sent their data over satellite. They were really hot on it, and then I don't know, they seemed to slow down, and it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't anything we did. I think it was just startup stuff. That's the problem with startups. So. But no, I mean, ag has there's lots of applicability in ag.
And what is the current timeline to complete all the current outstanding enhancements, not including new enhancements? A few months, a few years?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. There's certain things that we have prioritized because we believe that customers will be all over those. And for those months, maybe not even. There's one in particular that we're about to file a patent on that I can't go into the details, but I can say it combines what we're doing with a very high level of security all in one swoop, which means that in effect, we're going to have some pretty big, it's going to be pretty big.
And then we have a question that states, how has the downturn in the crypto market impacted the deal you are working?
Yeah.
Did you
right.
say it is not a project that is trying to be a currency?
Yeah, okay. So let me go back on to finish the question before, because I didn't really finish the answer to how long it takes. So I would add, we have a list of features we'd like to have that I haven't counted it lately. It's over 20. It's a lot. And those will take a long time. And it depends on the resources. If we said, okay, we've got, millions to work with, yeah, okay, then we can get those done pretty quickly. But otherwise it's going to be a while, be years. But I'm hoping not, I'm hoping months. And to go back to, sorry, what was the question that?
Yeah, no worries. How has the downturn in the crypto market impacted the deal you are working?
Yeah, it's impacted it. So we, are still very positive. Both organizations are still very positive on the potential. We have been told by them, this blockchain company, that they believe that we are essential to making their whole ecosystem, which goes beyond sort of blockchain. It's a big vision, but they believe that we're critical to it, and so we are actively going back and forth on a technical standpoint. From a technical standpoint, we are working jointly on some opportunities. They want to build us into the next version of their blockchain and so forth. That being said, yes, the downturn in crypto has affected them. They don't have a crypto, but it's kind of like if you're blockchain, you get tarred with a brush. I mean, it's just how it is. And so, and not only that, the overall market downturn has affected them also. They were in the middle of a very big raise with very big commitments, and everything suddenly got slowed down a lot. And so I can't tell you it's going to be a lot, but I can't tell you more than that.
Yeah. And Charles, you can unshare your screen if you would like.
Oh, yeah.
So that
Sure.
way, yeah. There we go. And then are you looking to get a revenue generating point such that you can rely on revenue plus good margins to
Yeah,
grow
of
the
course.
company?
Yeah, that's a great thing about software, right? Is that once you don't need that much to sustain a company. It's absolutely. I mean, I think if we can follow through with these partnerships and get several of them going pretty well, I think we can get to a point where we're self-sustaining sooner rather than later. I can't pledge a time or date or anything, but I can tell you that we don't have now. We need more, but we don't need dramatically more people and all that. If we're working through partnerships, that's a more efficient way.
Got it. And Edward's asking, what is the current burn rate? And is the company in danger of running out of funds if this current raise is not successful?
Well, I would say we've been around for a while and we haven't run out of money. So our current burn is about 150. So I don't think we're in a position in any time soon to run out of money. I am always on this. I think it's really important, obviously, nothing more important, really. So yeah, I mean, I just would say our focus is don't put yourself out there for stuff you can't afford. And we're really tight on that.
And Todd is asking, we know that some of the hesitancy to signing a contract is tied to wanting more features and or other people to sign up first. But how much is the internal change within these companies contributing to their delay in adoption?
I don't think it's contributed. I think it comes down to, like the theme I hope I was able to convey in this thing is trying to make everybody see that if we can get ourselves partnered to people, it's not a huge spend in terms of the number of people. We have somebody else selling it. I mean, we want to sell it too, but it's, the amount of time and effort and the amount of marketing and packaging and stuff that you need to do if you're partnering selling through partnerships is a heck of a lot less.
And are there any interest from auto manufacturers for your product, especially EVs, that could use it for AI software downloads?
Yes. We didn't sign an NDA with it, but Ford is one. We've also had a reach out recently from the biggest maker of chips to the automotive industry. We've also had discussions. We went through a POC with a big telematics maker and based in South Korea. We also have another South Korean car maker that we're talking to. So absolutely. One of the big things is it works on LiDAR. LiDAR is a gigantic headache in terms of just making, it has huge amounts of data, gigabytes a second kind of stuff. And we can affect that, reduce it by 3/4.
In the previous raise, you had mentioned that some of the biggest names in the VC world were hovering, waiting for you to get your first sales. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I mean, the dialogue is still going on. I got to tell you, I mean, yes, VC would definitely be a road we could take, but you know, if we could avoid it, I think we're all better off. So I would love to stick with crowdfunding if we can, but if it isn't practical and we need more money, then okay. I anticipate lots and lots of interest. We just need to knock out a few of these partnerships and sales and stuff. And I think, I mean, I get a call from a VC every week at least. So some big, some small, some this, some that, and all that.
And with this being, you know, your second round, what have you learned from your first campaign that you're bringing into the second round?
I think it's that. It's a good question. I think it's that, you know, I think I've always been fairly cautious. I have a Wall Street background, right? And so I sort of know that you can't say this and you can't say that. But I think it's that it's just trying to communicate and let everybody know really straight up without any icing, anything. And I think people who follow my comments on the site, I think, see that you ask a 2-sentence question and I go on and on for 3 paragraphs or more. And I'm really just want everybody to have full knowledge and understand it. And I think, you know, I mean, the truth will set you free.
And then let's see. We do have a question here about the 2022 projected revenue, but we can't speak on projected values and in the future. So if you do have a question about you know, the 2022 projections, please email Charles offline, and I'm more than happy to answer that question for you. And do you have a plan do you have a plan for a future IPO, merger, or how can investors expect to receive a return on their investment?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's always on our minds, right? I mean, and so, you know, we've had multiple inquiries to see if we're interested in selling the company from very big companies. And we've pretty much said, well, we're always open, of course, but, you know, I think it's suboptimizing to do it so early that before we really crank it along and we have significant revenue and everything. So hard for us to say, but I think, I mean, look, what really happens in the real world? Well, most of the time companies like us are bought, right? And maybe it's for, you know, early stage, it's 100 to 200 million or something. And maybe later stage, it gets to be much bigger. So I'm not ruling anything out. An IPO, sure, possible. But just in terms of numbers and what tends to happen, it's more likely that somebody buys us. But that's not to say an IPO is completely impossible.
And currently you are offering common shares. I believe previous funding was a note. Can you explain the difference?
Sure. So prior to this, last year we did a convertible note, and that note will convert into whatever it is, whatever security we've raised $1 million in. And in this case, presumably, we will hit the $1 million in this raise, and we will get, and everyone who has those notes will convert into common stock, just that like the same security that everybody else here is buying. The people that bought that its note had the convertible feature, I should say. Convertible feature, either we raise $1 million, or 2 years passes from the initial date of issuance of the start of the raise. And so, and then it automatically converts. So that's all. And plus, you get any accrued interest is returned to you in the form of shares.
Got it. And then we have a question here that states, would you agree that one of the advantages of crowdfunding is that us individual investors do not ask for extra risk mitigating terms and benefits like early stage VCs often do?
Absolutely. I mean, when you ask your question about, do we want to go to a VC route? Well, part of the issue is you kind of are, you're kind of like signing up for something that's a lot different. I mean, now, the board, management, they make the decisions, and decisions are presumably in line because we're all at the same security. Whereas when you talk about a VC, they're buying preferred stock that has a lot of pretty, in many cases, onerous bells and whistles that can make them have different incentives than everybody who has a common. Can be very dramatically different. And so I would say I would love to stick with crowdfunding if that is a feasible route.
Can you generically explain how a company like the Swedish company benefits as both a customer and a partner?
Yeah, so they're not, just to be clear, we're not talking about partnering with them, we're talking about them as a customer. I could talk about somebody else, but with them, so they're just saying, look, I mean, we have all these aircraft. If these aircraft, if we have to, we can't send all the data we need. Our choices are to spend millions and millions upgrading the communication systems, or adding software in AtomBeam software that would resolve the situation at a dramatically less cost. And so, whereas somebody who's looking at wanting to partner with us is saying, hey, if I have AtomBeam built in to my satellite connection, my software IoT platform, whatever, people are going to buy it more. Like there's a big company, I can say the name, PTC. They make a kind of software IoT platform, very well-known leading one. They say we lose lots of customers because they who really want to use our stuff, but figure out it's too expensive to move the data around. They said, hey, you guys can fix that problem for us. So we're a revenue opportunity.
Yeah. The anonymous attendee is asking, can you tell us a little bit about the backgrounds of yourself and your management team members?
Sure. So yeah, all right. I was a Navy intelligence officer. I have an MBA from Stanford. Worked on Wall Street, and I was an investment banker for one of the big firms, and then after that, did it on my own for a while, or with a small firm, and then got into management. I was the COO of a pretty big financial services company in New York, and then subsequently of CEO of a couple of other startups. So one wasn't really a startup. It was, a private equity firm recruited me to come in and be the CEO of it.
Awesome. And then are there any other
management team? So my co-founder, Ashkar, has been a project leader for multiple projects at big companies in Silicon Valley, very technical guy. Josh Cooper, our chief scientist, brilliant freaking guy, MIT and math professor, but when he started at MIT, he already knew all the stuff. So he just took a bunch of languages and stuff. So he speaks like 7 languages. I mean, that's the kind of guy we're talking about. It's like, holy smokes. But at any rate, and there's more obviously, but there's, we have lots of horsepower.
Awesome. And then are there other avenues that you can be developed from this technology to broaden the company?
Yeah, you mean other products or so?
Yes.
I would say this, that we have noodled about this before because there's other sorts of things you can do network optimization wise that would turn us into a broader kind of thing. But, I would say absolutely, number one, get going and make these things, make what we've got, focus on where we can really have huge leverage and get that rolling, expand that out. And then, that's not to say we wouldn't look at other things as we go. Absolutely. And if we were saying, okay, we really want to do an IPO, well, yeah, you probably have to do that kind of stuff. You got to have some more product lines and stuff. But being I mean, what we have right now is so good and so valuable. It just needs to be blown out there. And so that's my focus. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And can you provide an example of how you receive revenue from customers? For example, the Swedish aircraft. Is it a flat fee per vehicle or overall or based on the data sent or both?
So this is always an issue, right? Because we have to conform to the business model of the customer. So if a customer charges an ongoing price, then we can charge an ongoing price. If the customer charges a one-time fee, like say this telematics maker, they sell their device to the car company. Car company is not going to say, and they're not going to say to the car company, hey, except for this AtomBeam software, and you got to pay ongoing for that. It's like, I'm not doing that. And so the point is that for the most part, our goal is generally to charge by the amount of data that's moved. And it's going to vary depending on what the application is, what the price per whatever it is, per megabyte, per gigabyte. Because if you're talking about sending a teeny little bit of data, here's where I am and here's the temperature, every hour or something, that's tiny, as opposed to LiDAR, which is sending a gigabit a second, so you can't say, here's what it is, so tuning that and getting the pricing right is really critical and very hard. That being said, we've done a lot of work and we've talked to a lot of really big time experts to help tune up our strategy around that. But it's not like.
And then is this what a partnership would theoretically look like? For instance, an IoT device distributor for office buildings integrates AtomBeam into their product suite and proceeds to sell that suite to office buildings across the world, and AtomBeam gets a slice of the pie. Do I have this right?
Pretty much. And it's funny you choose that example because there's a big German company that does smart buildings that they make all the gadgets and the gateway and everything. And yeah, so they're talking to us about partnering with us, and it's not hot and heavy right now. That's why it's not listed on the thing, but they see us as, again, giving them an opportunity to have a significant advantage over their competition. Yeah, there's less cost to the backhaul, that is, say, moving the data from the building to where the server, wherever. But the big thing is, because they're sending us data from the little sensors, they would save battery. And so their batteries last longer. And so, it's a big competitive advantage. The deal we cut with them, just to get to the real question, is about the, add-on. So we would say, okay, whatever you're charging for this or that thing, add 10%. And that's our take on it. And so it becomes a quick and easy option. That's kind of how we're trying to work with a lot of circumstances, although there's also in many cases a per megabyte, per gigabyte charge. But for the most part, we're trying to keep it as simple as we can.
Awesome. And Mark Russell is asking, what is the relation with the accelerator program StartX? I noticed AtomBeam is listed on their site.
Yep. So StartX is a Stanford-based accelerator, and we went through their program. They invited us. It's pretty selective. I think they take 1 in 10 or something like that. And first of all, you have to be a Stanford guy, or I've seen other guys from Ivy League type stuff get in there too. But pretty much, it's a very selective group that is sort of self-run. In other words, it's not managed by something. There's an outfit called Plug and Play that we did too, that's managed by like a corporate type thing. And this is more of like collaboration between a group of Stanford guys. But it's a very good group, very high quality, and the level of success of their graduates is very high. And we've done, just as a quick thing, we did Plug and Play also, and we did another one in Southern California. It's called Starburst Scale, and that's a very impressive one too. Another very hard one to get into. We were invited to.
And in your slide deck, you named 9 full-time employees. What are their roles, and ultimately, how many employees do you think you'll need once you're fully built out?
Yeah, so I use the term FTE, full-time equivalents, and I do that intentionally because, actual employee count I think is 5, but we'll use a chunk of this guy. Like for instance, our CSO or chief science guy is Josh, and he's a professor. Do we have him full-time? No, he's a professor. Do we get him about maybe a quarter time? Yeah, but so I add that into the quarter, and then I get, and then I have some developers I don't use full-time because they have sort of specialized things, or we can't get them full-time or whatever. So you add it all up and you say, okay, most of those folks, you count myself and my co-founder, and we have a VP business development. We have 2 full-time developers, and there's most of the other guys are developers, and Josh Cooper, the chief scientist. So most of the time, you're really talking about, you need horsepower on the development side. And what would it look like later? Depends how ambitious we get. You definitely want more people, developing full-time, and you definitely need we definitely need some marketing and sales types. Like I really want to bring in a super high-powered sales guy, and those guys are really pricey. They're 200 plus commissions, for a really top guy. And we've got one guy who's really excited about it, and I'd love to get that guy. But my point is that I have a very detailed plan about this, what we need, when we need it, how to power it up, where we're going to put the resources, et cetera. And it's just a question of we need the capital to execute it.
And who are your major competitors, if there are any?
Yeah, good question. So there's nobody out there who has sort of the broad spread like we do, that we've ever seen. You could say, okay, well, what about compression? Well, yeah, but you have to accept, okay, either I'm going to accept a lot of latency because I'm going to wait and gather up enough data. There are companies we've talked to that gather up a whole day's worth before they use compression on it, just because they want to use compression. So compression sort of, kind of, but in terms of head-to-head, nobody is broad like us. There are some that specialize in trying to do network optimization, Like you could look, there's a company called Skylo, Skylo. That company is backed by SoftBank and tons of money, et cetera. They are all about optimizing satellite stuff. That being said, everybody in satellite knows about them. And they're getting some adoption, absolutely. And they are a force, no doubt. But they're not a one-to-one substitute for us. Why? Because their network optimization, things like, I'm not going to send the data until you tell me you need it. And then I'm not going to send all of it. I'll just send some of it, et cetera. So we're just set it all, but it's a lot cheaper, different.
And I know AtomBeam is an IoT product, but could it one day operate in personal computers and iPhones? If so, what would it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's IoT is like what? I mean, we have to say we do this, right? If we say, well, we do everything in the world, then everybody goes like, whatever. And but here's the bottom line is that for standard web stuff, you know, like just like websites and tweets and email and stuff like that, we get 60% reduction on average. So you're sitting on an airplane and you're surfing the web, or you're on your phone, or you just want something faster. Well, guess what? You know, if you had AtomBeam built in your phone or your laptop, or even if it's on the plane on the gadget that they use for the downlink from the satellite, we double the speed of everything. And so would Apple one day be interested? Sure. And as a matter of fact, we've already had discussions with Apple. So, you know, my point is that absolutely there's, you know, the thing to understand here is this gets down to such a fundamental level. It goes way beyond sort of like just thinking about, you know, we do this extra thing, this extra analysis thing that's really cool and all that stuff. This is like a sea change for how data is handled. And there's no limit here.
And I know you touched on this a little bit earlier on, but is AtomBeam planning to go public?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, to get back to that question, you know, I mean, I think we have a lot of sizzle. And I think that if we nail down some pretty big relationships, I think, I mean, I don't want to say yes, but I'd say it's not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah. And we don't have a question from Kevin, but we have a comment. He says, I hope they never sell this company.
Well, you know, I can't do this forever, Kevin. Sorry, buddy. But, you know, maybe somebody else could take over, you know, so.
I know it's not a priority at this moment, but where are your thoughts regarding AtomBeam in the biotech/pharma space?
Oh yeah, okay, good question. So one of the things is we were approached, and there's no NDAs, so I can say it, by Roche and Pfizer. Why? Because one of the biggest issues now in medical research is being able to search genomic data. Those are 60 gig files. And if you said, okay, I just want to look at 12 base pairs on 1 million of these genomes and see if that correlates with whatever. If you say that, and then you actually do it, because you can't search on stored data has been compressed, you've got to take 1 million genomes and decompress them. And then look at that little tiny piece and then cast it aside and look at the next one. And this can go on for days. With our stuff, you'd be able to type in search terms, show me this 12 base pairs on this 1 million genomes. And it just like that would be able to do it. I mean, literally replacing days and heavy compute with a simple search. So that is, yeah, it's a big topic. It's a really big interest, and it's not just genomic data. It's all sorts of biometric and all this stuff. Absolutely, you know, but again, you know, I can't sort of like chase moonbeams. I've got to stick with what I can do. And it's like, I got to tell you, my guys, my engineering guys say, you know, can we just, we got to build this thing. It's so cool, this extra feature. And so, no, we're making this freaking easy to use. It's going to be simple. It's going to be rock solid. Yep. I don't think that those things are not important. I just want to make sure you guys are making this easy for someone to say yes.
And we have a question from an anonymous attendee. If AtomBeam decides to go public, which ticker symbol would you prefer of the following? Atom or Beam?
You know, Atom, they're both too long. No, Beam's short enough. You got to have 4 and for NASDAQ, right? And so
Yeah.
I don't know. Got to think about that. That's a good one. Maybe it's something
Yeah.
totally different. I don't know.
Yeah.
You look at Samsara, you know, and they chose, what are they? They're like IoT or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you know, we are not under NDA there. They're talking to us. So just so everybody gets a little peek.
And we have a question from Lauren. Have you ever demoed the product for a company and they didn't want it? If so, why?
Ah, that's a good question. Let me think. Now, I can't count startups who go, you know, because they don't say, I'm not, they mostly get really excited about it. And and most of the time we're either still engaged or whatever, but a lot of them just fall off the map because they have some other thing that happened. They ran out of money, or, you know, Joe left or whatever.
Mhm.
But in terms of solid, large companies, I'm just trying to think of a circumstance in which we had a rejection. Well, I mean, so we competed for a thing for Japan tobacco, and I'm not frankly very enthused about it. Maybe that was a contributing factor, but at any rate, they didn't choose us as one of the winners of that competition. So I don't know, maybe we didn't convey it right. Maybe I just didn't really want to do it or whatever. So.
Yeah. We are coming down to the final couple minutes here. Charles, what can we do other than invest to support AtomBeam?
I appreciate that question. Thank you. And I will tell you, one of the things that I really like about crowdfunding is I'm not sitting in some conference room with some, I should say another Stanford MBA, but I shouldn't, but you know, like sitting in there and they bring you the water and then they pull your pants. Oh, sorry. They say they take advantage of it. And, you know, instead you get a crowdfunding community that's a community of people who really get excited about it, who want to help. And, you know, I have the same security that you have, and we're all on the same page. And that revs me up. And so thank you for the question. And I would say that the best things, besides obviously give me your money, are think about like where you would think an opportunity is, especially with bigger companies, because I got to tell you, you know, those big companies, that's, you know, it's like, you know, what's his name? The Dillinger, was it Dillinger? Anyway, that's where the money is, right? And so, you know, they can, if you get into the right people, in the right companies, then boom, you know, things will really happen. So if anybody thinks of ideas along those lines, has a connection, yeah, absolutely, let me know.
And where is the best way someone can reach you at?
Either email me at charles@atombeamtech.com, or you can reach me through the comments section on the site. You know, just reach out.
Yeah, and speaking of this, the raise, I've added the link to the campaign page one more time. Like Charles said, if you have a comment or have a question, feel free to ask it on the Start Engine website. There is a heart button on the top right of the page. You can follow the campaign, stay updated, even post post-campaign. Yeah, we do have another question.
Actually, one more quick plug.
Yes.
You know, for anybody, it does help us too if you like our tweets and Facebook, and you know, we also have a video thing on YouTube. So just mentioning it.
Yeah, exactly. You can post, we post weekly updates on the Start Engine page. We post weekly on social media. We also send weekly emails. Yeah, I mean, we have one more question. It is sticking with the IPO theme. That is a big topic for today.
Yeah.
I have thought that the value of this product seems to be so great that it seems there could be some regulatory hurdles for one company to own if they would limit others' usage. This to me also makes the IPO route more appealing, a more appealing avenue. I think we all want to ride this into the sun.
Yeah, you know, I get excited too when I think about this, because like, so, you know, actually it's instructive here that the reactions among the group here, our little group, is such that everyone involved here thinks, you know, or not everyone necessarily, but a lot of folks think that an IPO would be a great thing. Why? And why is that significant? Because it tells you the people that are buying the shares in an IPO are the kinds of folks that we're talking about. And so it's about getting excited about something that could be a giant thing. It's the invention of the wheel kind of stuff. So.
Exactly. And the last question we will ask here is, what are your current ideas for the AtomBeam Super Bowl commercial?
Good question. Now that basically, I've devoted a lot of resources to this. Okay, so right, I actually know the woman who did Pets.com's commercial. She actually went on to found the Real Real, so it worked out at the end. So anyway, but you know, I sit around, I think about these things like that. You know, how do you convey this idea in a way that can be conveyed in a few seconds effectively? And so I can't really walk you through anything, I think, in the time we have left. But you know, if you have an idea, you know, I mean, it isn't necessarily going to be on the Super Bowl, but if you have an idea for how to talk about this and how to, because like one of the things we do is we've made several videos, right? I haven't made some of the cartoon things for a long time, but like Khalil's company is encouraging me to talk about stuff in little short videos. So if you have things you think I should be talking about, or you think would be interesting to address, or what, yeah, by all means, kick it into me in whatever form you like. But I will think on the Super Bowl question. It's a good thought, because it does sort of say, how would you encapsulate and in an exciting way the AtomBeam concept in a very short period of time?
Just keep that question in the back of your head. The next webinar, I'll be sure to re-ask that question.
All right, good. I will.
Well, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. We are at our time here today. This webinar is recorded, so if you did miss the webinar or want to rewatch it, be on the lookout for that recap video. We will have that going out either by end of this week or early next week. So thank you so much, Charles, and thank you everyone who attended today.
Yep, and thanks, Khalil, and thanks everybody for both participating in this, for supporting us in Start Engine, and we really appreciate it. So hang in there. You know, I really think this is going to have some wheels.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you everyone, and Charles, you have a good day.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.